Hey guys, I'm Uncle Joel with Pin and Reel, where we talk about comic books, video games, TV shows, movies, books, and more. We'll do reviews, speculation, ideas I have as a writer for what I would do if I was writing the movies or comics, and so on. Please leave a comment to let us know what you think. Really appreciate the feedback. If you like what you see, hit like and be sure to subscribe. And with that being said, on to the video. So it was recently announced that Zack Snyder is going to get to finish his cut of the Justice League movie, and it's going to be released on HBO Max. And there are a lot of people that are super excited about this, and I do think it could be interesting. However, I feel like it sets a dangerous precedent. Already, immediately after this was announced, there were people calling for a similar treatment of the Suicide Squad movie. Now, I don't really see Suicide Squad happening in the same way, mostly because we already have The Suicide Squad coming up soon from James Gunn. And so chances are they wouldn't want those two movies to compete. However, this does seem to set a precedence that people now have an expectation that they can push and push until studios finally counter their pressure and give them what they want. But that's not necessarily a great business practice. I do think there is a degree where the studios need to pay attention to the fans and listen to them for what they're asking for. For instance, with the Sonic movie, I think it was an excellent decision for them to go back and completely redo Sonic based off of the backlash they got from the original trailer. Stuff like that can only be good for the industry. However, something like the Justice League Snyder Cut is a bit different and has a little bit murkier waters. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of what Zack Snyder has done with the DC movies. I thought Man of Steel was just okay, and I didn't care for Batman vs. Superman. Now, I'm not going to dive too much into why here. I am planning on doing a DCEU retrospective series, probably just called DCEU 2020, in which I'm going to rewatch the movies. I'm really going to break down what I think of them and why I feel like they don't really work, as opposed to what a lot of us were and still are hoping for in Superman and Justice League movies. But my personal feelings about the movies aside, I'm happy for the fans who are really excited for it. Like, yeah, that's awesome that they get to see the version that they were hoping for all along. And personally, I'm going to watch it. I'm hopeful that this will be good. However, not only has this led to people calling for the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, Paul Feig has also come out saying that he has his own director's cut of the Ghostbusters reboot movie. Now, I don't think Ghostbusters was as bad as a lot of people do, but I still don't think it was very good. Now, fortunately, that hasn't really seemed to pick up any steam, at least from what I could see. But if the Snyder Cut sets a precedence for studios cowing to the pressure of fans, then we may get a lot more movies that flop and don't turn out well, where all of a sudden a ton of people are pushing and crying for a remake and a recut and a remaster and more filming and more money spent. Now, certainly the studios don't have to give in to that, but the fact that they've given into similar things already, specifically with the Snyder Cut, it will build an expectation for more fan outcry and more fan pressure, which that alone I feel is unhealthy. But what's worse is, let's say the Snyder Cut fails. Or let's say the Snyder Cut does okay, and they do the Suicide Squad Ayer cut, and that fails. Then the studios are going to look at it and say, it failed the first time, we cowed to the pressure, and then it failed the second time. We're not going to listen to the fans anymore. And that is where I think the danger is. If doing things like the Snyder Cut winds up failing, the studios might take it as a sign that they don't need to listen to fans, that in fact they should not listen to fans. And then I think we would be less likely to get things like what happened with Sonic. And we'd be less likely to get the Snyder Cut, or anything like that in the future. I think we would be even more likely to get studios that just write off the failures and completely move beyond them. It would lead to studios with even more aversion to risk. And that's already a problem with the industry. We already have an issue with tons of remakes, tons of sequels, tons of reboots, and a frequent lack of new ideas. And so if we get things like the Snyder Cut failing, the studios might say the fans don't know what they want, or they say they know what they want, but they're wrong because what they want is bad, then they're going to ignore the fans even more. You know, for instance, I have a video on how I would make a Superman movie. And a lot of it is really focused on getting down to the core of the character and what makes the character so great and why I think it would be effective if they could really hone in on that. But then if the Snyder Cut fails and a bunch of the fans say, well, here's what's so great about Superman and here's what we want for you to do in a future Superman movie, WB might look at it and say, well, okay, you say you want that in Superman, but you also said you wanted the Snyder Cut and then that failed. So why would we listen to you for Superman? And WB's already done a fairly poor job in handling the DC movies in general, so giving them more reason to not listen to the fans when they're already not listening to the fans, that's worrisome to me. And so that's why I think the Snyder Cut is dangerous. Not that the Snyder Cut itself is a bad idea or will be bad. I'm not going to pass judgment on it until I've had a chance to see it. But that the entire way that this is played out could potentially make things worse for fans in the future. It's not a given, but it's a big risk, and it worries me. This is Uncle Joel saying, stay tangible.